Yo, what's up, you beautiful people? It's Koga here again with a little quick update to my Wintertide starter that I started in Harvest League. The brand skill itself is a little bit complex. I wanted to give you guys all the knowledge that I've already attained from playing the skill and, and figuring out all the little problems that I've seen from the build and actually fixing it and give it to you guys for free in a quick little update video. And so you guys know, Waggle did win the competition for the laptop using Wintertide brand. So that should give you an idea how good the brand skill really is. But on a quick note, I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Kogaras every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you want to see where the magic happens and how I make my builds and how I make all my ideas, they literally happen on stream. And if you guys have any questions on your builds, I'm glad to help, and that's what I'm here for. So thanks for watching. Before we get into the quick detail and stuff, here's a quick little montage of how the brand skill is working out for me.
And not before.
Belong here.
Okay, welcome back, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. Now let's go into the detail of how Wintertide works and how to make it do broken DPS. Well, first is read the skill because it's actually pretty complex. So Wintertide brand is a brand that deals damage over time. It does not hit the enemy. So if you do try to do a curse on hit, it does not work. Now, if you have, let's say, fire damage to your spells like I do in this one, and you look at your tooltip, it tells you do fire damage. That is not true. I'll go over that detail visually for you guys to see, but let's keep reading on. So what happens is, as usual for a brand skill, increases and reductions to cast speed increase how fast it activates. Wintertide actually has the fastest activation speed out of any brand by far, starting with 0.25 seconds. In our current build of all the cast speed that I have and Arcane Surge, our activation speed went from 0.25 to 0.13. This is very important because of how the brand works. If you read it, it says it activates every 0.25 seconds while attached. And while it's attached, it gains, ignore that, that is 7 chaos. I kind of need the money. I'm sorry. Be right back. Okay, I apologize for that. Let's go back into the Wintertide brand. So if you read the description, it gives you a general idea of how it works with the brand activation speed and everything. It's a magical brand that can attach to a nearby enemy, dealing cold damage over time and chilling them. It periodically activates, is the keynote, right? While attached, gaining stages that raise the damage. So basically, you want it to last longer so it can hit the max amount of stages and do the most amount of damage. When removed, a short duration debuff dealing the same damage over time. So the higher the stages, if you hit the max stages, that same damage over time that's been maxed out would then apply a debuff, and then the chill is applied to each nearby enemy. And this is where technically the clear comes in, but there's an issue with the clear, and I'll go into that very quickly. But as you guys can see, the whole point of the skill is that you want to get the maximum of 20 stages. So what you really have to do is you have to make sure that you have enough cast speed and duration that you always hit that 20 stage in terms of single target. And the best way to calculate this, honestly, is pull out your handy dandy calculator, right? And you go into my tooltip. It tells me that, let's move this to the left. My duration says can be attached for a total duration of 3.3 seconds, 3.36 seconds. My activation speed is 0.15. Let's say we don't have Arcane Surge, right? 0.15. You divide that by that, and we hit a maximum of 22 stages. So we hit our cap. And honestly, the only thing that I've actually invested in duration for the skill is just these two nodes here, which give you duration. Malevolence, which is the aura that gives you duration. And then I have Efficacy, which is probably the best in slot gem, one of the best in slot gems, Wintertide. That give you also skill effect duration. And that was more than enough. Though, however, I don't recommend you guys to invest into duration that much. Instead, I recommend you to invest into cast speed more. And I'll explain this now. So let's first go into how the skill works, right? Let's go into a map. And what usually happens is you cast Wintertide. Let me actually take up some links real quick because I'm doing a lot more damage than I should be right now. All right, so you guys can see what happens. So you attach it, and then you see it only hits one enemy, and then it starts chaining to the other ones. So that's where the issue comes in the clear speed, right? It only kills one, and then it starts chaining. So you have to wait for the first one to die. And that's really bad for the build. And that's where you want more cast speed, because the more cast speed you have, the more it activates, and then the more times it, basically the higher, the faster the DPS increases. And that's what's really important. However, this is too slow, in my opinion, for a build. Like you have to wait for that one to die in order for it to leave, and then do that. So the best way to fix it is actually, after doing a lot of testing, Holy Conquest. What happens is it says, brands attached to a new enemy each time they activate, no more than once every 3.3 seconds. This is crazy for Wintertide because since Wintertide has such a low activation frequency, like it's 0.15, right? We can actually gain 2 stages for 40% more damage, and then it switches, changes. So it gains 2 stages, changes. 2 stages, changes. And as we know, every time that Wintertide deactivates, right? Every time it deactivates, it does a debuff. So what happens is every 0.3 seconds, it's going to apply a debuff. And now you can see it. I'll leave another one link. You see how much debuff is applying now? It's just chaining like crazy. And that's where it becomes so much beautiful. You combine that with Occultist little Profane Bloom and the curses, and you get a lot more clear speed. If you guys want a quick example of that, I'm pretty sure you guys saw it in the gameplay, but I'll show you real quick of how crazy it can be. Let's pop this little Legion. Not to be killed real quick. You put it everywhere, and you can see that it just starts chaining by itself. You put Volcul Snap, and then you just run around and you blow up everything. Look at that boss. Right? And that's where the skill, that's where the clear speed really starts to show itself. Without that one Holy Conquest node, it doesn't do a lot of clear. If anything, the clear is really bad, I would say. But once you get that brand middle cluster, which isn't too expensive, honestly, it's like a brand new different skill. It's like something completely different. It is a complete 180. I don't know why they're standing still like that, but whatever. But you see what I'm talking about. So really, for Wintertide to really stand out, you want Holy Conquest. And at the same time, this is why cast speed is so important, because you actually want to get more cast speeds in those 0.3 seconds in duration, because that means in those 0.3 seconds, as it chains, it gets another buff. So let's say instead of my my activation frequency being 0.14, it says 0.10, right? We actually managed to get it to 0.10. With 0.10, it gains 3 stages for 60% more damage, and then starts chaining. Now, this does not affect your single target because if you're only fighting a boss and there's nothing near that boss, they're not going to move. So don't worry about that. At the end of the day, you just want to make sure you have enough duration and cast speed, more emphasis on cast speed, in order to get 20 stages. Now, another cool interaction is most brands in the tree, not in the tree, in the game, can only have one brand attached to the enemy. And then you get 2 from Roombinder. Wintertide Special, where you can actually attach 2 brands, and then with Roombinder, you have 3. This makes the Cluster Jewel a brand loyalty, which means they take 5% increased damage taken per brand attached. A lot better for Wintertide because that means it's 15% over 10. Not too big of a deal either way, but it's still really good. But over and all, we're using a very cool amount of Cluster Jewels. But first, let's go into that cool interaction I was talking about with the fire damage, right? I want to say cool, it's kind of disappointing. So one of the ways this damage gets insane is with elemental equilibrium. It says enemies you hit with elemental damage temporarily get plus resistance to that element. So if you hit with cold, they get plus cold, but they get minus 50 to everything else. Well, technically, since we're doing fire damage, let's say it does, with Wintertide, right? Technically, Wintertide will hit them with fire, and then the degen for cold will have the enemy will have minus 50 cold, and the degen will do more damage. Turns out that's not true, and I'll show you why. There's a cool, I don't want to say cool, but there's a visual look. I'm gonna leave this. I don't want to get hit by that. You see that little purple thing? You see that little purple thing under their feet? That little purple thing is elemental equilibrium. That little purple circle. That is the elemental equilibrium. That goes to show that elemental equilibrium is active on the enemy and killing them. I do some of my Orb of Storms because it does lightning damage and thus it lowers their cold res. Well, if Wintertide hit, right, you would see that same circle. Observe. You don't. You literally do not. There is no circle. The only thing that can probably cause a circle is the explosion, since technically it is a spell. It's considered spell damage. I would think it is. And the fire damage would probably apply to that. Don't quote me on that, but that's the only way. Because if you see here, there's no circle. What you're seeing, if you see a little purple, it's kind of hard to tell. That little purple thing is malediction. Right? That's from my curse. That's from my occultist. Elemental equilibrium is like a rainbow color. Right? You see that little rainbow under them? It's kind of moving. That's completely different. So if you go into an enemy, you're not going to see that rainbow under any of them with a Wintertide. It doesn't exist. So that goes to show that Wintertide actually doesn't hit, and that's just a visual bug. It doesn't do anything. Right, so let's get that out of the way. So now that we know Wintertide doesn't hit, the only ways that we can apply, the elemental equilibrium is with Orb of Storms, and that's really good because if we link Orb of Storms with increased critical strikes, it has a higher chance to crit, and then we can proc Elemental Overload for an easy 40% more damage, which does affect our damage over time. So really, the ways to make this damage go crazy, in my build, what I'm trying to go for, is we're using Elemental Overload for 40% more damage, Elemental Equilibrium for minus 50 res for cold res, inflicted damage over time, and then I went low life for pain attunement to get 30% more damage. That'll happen. But I'll just ignore that. If you use, let's recover this real quick. If you use Prism Guardian, which reserves all the auras on your life, right? And not only does it do that, it also gives you, let's recover a little bit more life with my Consecrated Ground. Put auras back on. It also gives you 25% reduced mana reservation. What's cool about the shield is that if you use the Blood Magic Gem to reserve your auras, it has a mana multiplier, so your 50% reserved cost turns to 100. While in this shield, it instead goes to 31, especially with Sovereignty. What that means is you can actually put Malevolence, Zealtry, and Hatred, which are 50% auras, which all affect, give you more damage for Wintertide, all in your life pool. That's insane. There's nothing that can give you that much damage. Making Prism Guardian probably the best in slot shield in terms of damage. Meaning that we can put in our a Discipline into our mana pool, a Blasphemy, as you guys can see, I have Blasphemy of Curse. Since Wintertide doesn't curse, the only way for us to explode enemies using Occultist Profane Bloom, because curse enemies you or your minions kill explode, is through our Blasphemy. You can also use Witchfire Brew, which it is a Blasphemy curse with Despair. And then on top of that, what you could do is also use an Aspect of the Spider, which I'm going to do at the end of the day, making our mana pool less than this, but we have enough mana regen, as you guys can see here, where I don't really care, especially with Arcane Surge. And we're good on mana, that we don't even need a mana pot, no, we don't need Energy Leech, Mana Leech, anything like that. Right? So At the end of the day, the amount of damage we're getting is absolutely insane. We're talking about 40% more there, 30% more there. Here, you know, 20% more. This is a level 121. It goes up to like 22 with the shield. That's another 20% more there. Another 16% more. Another 18% more. Right? We're doing dual curse between occultists right here. So that's more damage from frostbite, more damage from despair. That also makes them take 10% increased damage. On top of that, we're using a lot of cluster jewels that are very unique in each in its own nature to actually buff the build to a different degree, and it's really cool. So yeah, if you go into my POB, you guys can see what the cluster jewels I'm talking about. We have Wish for Death for Calling Strike against cursed enemies, which are always going to be cursed, and then Master Your Fear, which enemies you curse are unnerved, making them take increased spell damage, which does affect our damage over time. On top of that, we do have, this is supposed to be the brand one, but for some reason it's bugged out. We have Holy Conquest with brand loyalty for the 15% increased damage taken, right? Which is right here, actually. This one's a different one. This one on the right is actually this, though. For some reason, it's bugged out. It's the Vow Invigoration for maximum ES, damage over time, regenerate 2% of ES every time we kill for more regen, and Exposure Therapy for more chaos resistance against damage over time, since the low life build's biggest weakness is chaos damage. And then at the end of the day, we can use Cold Conduction, since we're always going to chill our enemies. We're going to also shock them, making them take another 15% increased damage taken. So we have so many more multipliers in his build. It's absolutely insane. So we can figure that our damage is going to be stupid crazy. POB determines it at 1.2 mil. Since there's 3 brands, that's what? 1.28 times 3. We're talking about almost 4 million DPS, not including the 5-link cold snap into our helmet, which is almost another million. So we're looking at about 6 million DPS. And since that's pretty good considering most bleed builds have like what? 2 to 3 million bleed DPS, especially for a bleed bow using Asylum. We have double that in terms of cold damage over time. And at the end of the day, the build that I'm working on should have more than 7,000 ES. It's not calculating this one, so I'm losing about 8,000 ES there. And a crap ton of damage and a good amount of regen and everything. So on top of the explosions that we get from Occultist, this is pretty crazy. And I think it's going to be one of the best builds, if not the best build for Wintertide in general. Now, the only thing that in this build that costs a lot of money is ideally Shabs. As Rhyme Gaze, Prism Guardian, all this stuff is really cheap. The belt's super cheap. The Flasker, you can get them for currently budget. I think Witchfire Blue is around 15 chaos. I bought my Shabs day 2 for around 210 chaos, and then I think now they went up in price for about 350. So yes, it can be expensive, but of course, you know, until you use it, you can go the budget version and then just use, where is it? A Solaris Larka, which does the same thing, but doesn't give you ES. So it's basically, it's strictly a budget version of the build. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's how the build gets so much damage. We're just stacking so much damage over time multiplier and more damage from auras and everything, and increased damage taken from Aspects of Spider, Malediction, Shock, you know, the brand loyalty, the curse effect one, that we're gonna see some insane DPS, bro. And yeah, this is pretty much my take. This is what I'm working on. There is a hybrid life one, not hybrid life one, an Eldritch Battery one, but it's nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good. It is cheaper, and that's what I kind of was going for my league starter. But once I bought my Shabs, I kind of just ignored it and just started going for my low life version. And lastly, for those people who really want to use my MTX, all I'm using right now is basically the Arctic Armor set with the Ice Shield. I'm using the Grand Sanctum Hood with the Arcane Horns Home enchantment, and the Pitch Black Bandana, so that way you can cover her mouth. Is kind of cool. And then the Benevolence Wings for the new Wings from the supporter pack. The Redeemer ones are also nice. Where are they? Right? I think it fits it well too, but you know, the big buff wings are pretty dope too. I don't mind that. I have the Celestial Character Effect, you know, Dragon, whatever, the Ice Frog. If you want to know what this is the Cold Snap Hand Effect. It just makes a hand. And Wintertide doesn't have any MTX, so there's nothing there. Otherwise, I'm using the Transcendence Dagger, and that pretty much covers the MTX that I'm using. And with that, guys, that pretty much covers everything I know about Wintertide right now. If you have any questions, or if you know something I do not know, please let me know, because I'd love to learn more about the game and the Wintertide itself, because it is what I'm trying to min-max right now. And yes, in the future, there will be a build guide coming soon once I have all my cluster jewels set up. And that's the reason why I have like 7 points to use on the video unallocated, because I'm waiting for large jewels, and they each cost like 50 freaking chaos for one a passive large jewel that has a item level 75, which means they can get 2 jewel sockets. Yada yada yada. We'll get there when we get there. But I'll make the build guide when we get there. Hope you guys enjoyed what you saw, and hope you guys consider Wintertide, if you haven't started the league yet, as a possible option, you know, to league start with. It's really good. It's really broken. Of course, not as broken as Wave of Conviction, because it's completely bugged out if you haven't seen Maffle's videos. But yeah, it's up there, and it's doing really good DPS, a lot more impressive than what I thought it would be. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Quick update. A lot of people are asking me for a Goroshi build. Yes, it's going to be updated. Just give me some time. I have to go back and test some things. The tree's already been made, but I don't know how efficient it is. So please give me some more time with that. Thank you guys so much for enjoying that build. I love that build to death. Yeah, until the next build guide or informative video, have fun farming out there, Exiles. I'll catch you guys later.